Sorry. How's that? Is the audio working now? I had it muted because I was testing earlier. Okay, sweet. Thanks for joining, everyone. Yeah, I think I see some Instagram people here. Pranav and Sieta Neha. Yeah, let me know if I'm just kind of curious, like, are most of you from Instagram or are you also following me on YouTube? Oh, Navajo. It's disabled at the moment. Oh, hi, Sylvia. All right. Let's do one more thing. Okay. Cool. Okay, Sweet Tart Diva. Nice. All right. So let's see. Let me open up our design files here and our mobile one. Hey, bye. My brother's staying with us right now, so he's doing his own thing today. Okay, so oh, John disabled because getting ready for school, studying like crazy. Wow. Yeah, I guess, yeah, it is almost time for school to start. I was in Target the other day and there were a lot of people doing back to school shopping, so I'm kind of glad I don't have to go to school anymore. Cool. Noor Eldon, hi, thanks for joining us. Sweet Tart Diva says, I'm still wanting to get back into coding. Cool. Did you do it before? Now, what made you want to kind of get back into it? Okay. So the template we're working with today this is part 3 of, I'm not sure how many parts, might end up being 5 or so. But this really cool site, frontendmentor.io, and they have different challenges that you can build. So they have all these great different designs. We're building this one, the Clipboard landing page. So I'll paste this in the chat in case any of you want to sort of see that. And you're welcome to kind of code along with me. What I actually probably should do is make a GitHub repo, and so I can kind of keep all the code that I have there. And then if you want to follow along, then you can just pull that down. But I haven't set that up yet, so maybe for next time. Cool. Sweet Tart Diva I did a little years ago, but didn't fully understand it. Yeah, I mean, it's a great time to, I mean, coding is a really good thing to get into right now. So here are our, for those of you who are new to the stream, here are this is just the files and folders that we have for this project. It's pretty simple. We just have an index.html file. I don't know why I cloned it like that, but we have an index.html file with all our markup. And then we have an images folder for all the images from Frontend Mentor that we're going to drop in. Okay, cool. Now it's working. Then we have a CSS folder with our Sass files. And just a super quick run through of how Sass works is it's like CSS, but it's like a preprocessor. Or I guess people call it an extension of CSS. Technically, you know, whatever, but it's a different way of writing your CSS styles that is more efficient and makes things faster. You can do cool things like, this is our main Sass file. You can just import all the different partial Sass files. So this top one, variables, let's take a look at that. It's over here. And we've just we're using this to store different Sass variables, which is another cool Sass feature. So I'm storing my font family in this variable font primary. I'm storing my colors here, even storing my breakpoints so that I can use a mixin which is sort of like a function, but not exactly, to handle all my responsive styles. So cool. Ankit, thank you for joining us from India. Yeah. What time is it in India right now? It's probably maybe afternoon time. I have a lot of family in Australia and they're 15 hours ahead of me. So I think it would be kind of late night over there. But yeah. So one thing I like to do in Sass is it's 9 p.m. I kind of make a different Sass file for every section of the website. So, and actually I should load the website up so you can actually see what we're making. Let's do that now. Let me zoom in a little bit. There. Just to make the code a little more readable for all of you. But yeah, it's here's the website that we're doing. And so if we see this top section, the hero section that we made the first time, let me show you the markup for that. It's down here. So here's the hero. And I've kind of written all the classes, so they start with hero __. So that kind of makes it easier when I'm writing my styles to start with hero, adding all the styles here, and then you can see the different sections here. So it's 8:48 p.m. All right. We want to make sure that we have the exact time. So let's see, where were we last time? I believe, so we'd started this sort of snippet section here, and that's as far as we got. So we'll kind of just move on to the next section after that. And the cool thing about Frontend Mentor is that they give you the desktop and then the mobile designs. And for free, you can just get the JPEGs. And they also do have, for $5, you can get the actual sketch design file, which would be much more helpful and also much more accurate to what like a real world situation would be, where, you know, I'm a developer working for a company, and when I do work projects, I get design files from the designers. Just trying to stay hydrated here. But in this case, I'm just doing the free version. So we're just kind of working off JPEGs and sort of trying to kind of guess things. Right now I just have them open in Irfan view, but actually I just thought of something. What if I open them with a Adobe XD, and that way I might be able to kind of guess the sizes a little bit better. So let's see. Oh, I see. I need a custom size here. I'm just gonna guess here. 6,000. This might be really big. Okay. And then I will try to drop in my design files here. Haven't done this before. I guess technically they should be on different artboards, but what are you gonna do? There we go. How big is this anyway? 720 by 1904. There we go. And then this one, the mobile design is, let me just make a new artboard. I will duplicate it because I don't really know how else to do it. And I'll drop in the mobile design here. The mobile design is 187.5 by 2602.5. 187.5. Okay. Yeah, Adobe XD. Ankit says Adobe XD has come a long way. They're continuously adding more and more features, which is kind of cool. Yeah, if you haven't used Adobe XD, I love them. I was never able to use Sketch because I have a PC, but Adobe XD has a ton of features. And again, these are just JPEGs, so I don't know if this is a good idea, but what I've been doing is just sort of trying to figure out the sizes that way. It's not good. I think maybe for the next one, I might just shell out the $5 and get the actual sketch file, which hopefully I can open in Adobe XD. We'll see. So I'm actually not sure if this is going to work, but we'll just kind of eyeball stuff. I think it'll be okay. We'll get through it. You just got to use the tools you have, right? Okay. So let's see. So the next section, so we did this sort of snippet section here, which you can see now they're nicely side by side. Let me zoom in a little bit more. How's that? There. And now we're going to do the Access Clipboard Anywhere section. So you can see on desktop and mobile, they're pretty much the same. The font sizes are changing, but they are stacked one under the other. So hopefully today we'll get through this and then sort of do this column section here below, which is a little more interesting, I guess. Hey, McAfee, thanks for joining us. We're actually just getting started, even though we're 15 minutes into the stream. So you're not late. You are fashionably on time. Let me just minimize these past sections here. So, okay, what do I want to call this? Access Clipboard Anywhere. We'll just call it Access because I'm not that creative. So for every section on the design that I'm doing, we are using the section tag. And we're using this Emmet VS Code extension, which lets you write HTML markup a bit more quickly. So we'll call this Access, and then we press, you can see here it says Emmet abbreviation in the pop-up. So if I press enter, it'll generate the markup for me. So it's just a faster way of writing code because you don't have to write, all the angle brackets and etc. It sort of does it for you. So, and then I'm also trying to remember the styles that I'd written last time. It's always hard to remember what you'd worked on before. So you have to refresh yourself. So I'm trying to remember if I need, so I probably want to add this wrapper class because in the wrapper class, I'd added some kind of global padding on the different sides so that every section on the website will have the same padding. So it's using this wrapper helper class. So that's one way that I just like to avoid duplicating writing the same styles, because if I added these padding styles for the Access class, and I'd also would have had to add the same padding for the Snippets class, etc. And then if you need to redesign, it's a little more difficult because you have to change it. You have to find where it is, and then you have to change it in multiple places. Whereas if you use a helper class, a wrapper, or whatever you want to call it, you can just add the styles there, and then adding that class to the markup will automatically pull in those styles. So everything's just in one place. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to write in the headline, subheadline, and then the image. So another thing that Frontend Mentor gives you is they will give you an index.html file, which you can use to start if you want. I just kind of made one from scratch, but I have been using this to copy and paste the copy. So makes things a little bit easier. So let's go back to our index.html file. And looks like up here I've been using the h2 tag. So, and I might need the content tag, but I can't remember. So I'm just going to leave it off for now. And then it looks like I made some P classes. We'll just do the paragraph for now. Copy that over. And then we got that. And then we need our image. So I think I'm just going to do an image tag. Or instead of the angle brackets, I can just type img. And I don't know what class I need to add for it. I may not even need to add a class, but let's just add the image. And we have to figure out which image it is. Let's look up in here. Another cool thing about VS Code is that it'll actually load image files for you. So this is the desktop background. This one, no. Devices? Oh, it might be devices. Yes. Okay, image devices. There we go. We'll just say devices. Okay, so let's, oh yeah, we need to watch the Sass. So that little thing that I just clicked, that's a VS Code extension called Live Sass Compiler. I talked about it a little bit in the first video when I was setting everything up, but it'll essentially watch your Sass files and compile it into a final CSS file. So usually to compile Sass to CSS, you have to use like a tool like Gulp, which is what I usually use, or Webpack, or Parcel, or Grunt was one of the older ones. But it's super convenient, especially for like live coding, that you can just use a live Sass compiler. I mean, I guess technically you could use it in a production environment if you wanted to, and you would just sort of include the CSS file in all your Git commits. Oh, Leonel, thank you for joining the stream. Welcome back. Okay. So now we're watching our Sass. We have our live server going, which is another aspect of the Live Sass extension. Let's see what we got. Here we go. So the nice thing is that, I don't know if you noticed, but all I did was just type in the H2 tag and it had the same styles as above. And that's because I've kind of pre-written some of these global styles that I'm just reusing. So you can see here I have H2, H1, etc. You know, I have all my fonts set up and everything. So it takes a little bit of more, there's little more work to do at the very beginning, but once you have it set, it's a lot quicker to write your code. So looks like I might need that content div in the section tag. Yeah, so the content div, it basically caps it at a max width of 700. So let's just add that in there. And that encloses the H2 in the paragraph. That makes sense. So we'll just add that in, div class content. Then we'll just kind of move our stuff into there. And I'm not putting the image tag in there because I want it to be wider than 700 pixels basically. So let's see what we got now. What's going on? Oh, wait, did I do something wrong? So why is this? Oh, centered content. Okay, got it. Is there any CSS that's just for content? Looks like it's not. Centered. And then the centered class adds, let's just kind of review the styles that I did. So it uses flexbox to vertically align everything. Okay. And I'm using flexbox to center things instead of, just text align center because for one thing, text align center will only work on, I believe, display inline or inline block. So if you have block elements, it's not really going to work. Oh, sorry, I need to monitor the chat a little better. Noor says, what should I learn to be a web dev? So the basics of web development are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then what I'm working with today is just HTML and CSS. I don't think we actually need any JavaScript, although Frontend Mentor does have some JavaScript in their projects, which I might do in a future one. And then after that, you can, if you want to be a JavaScript developer, you can start learning a framework like React, Vue, or Angular. And then if you want to be a backend developer, you can choose like a programming language like, JavaScript again, like Node.js it's not exactly a programming, like a server-side language, but it's a way that you can use JavaScript on the server. Other languages you might have heard of are PHP, C#, Python, Ruby. There's a lot. So it kind of depends on what your goals are, also what jobs are available to you in your area. So that's kind of what I try to recommend to people. But because I'm just gonna, I know this is gonna seem like a shameless plug, but I wrote a beginner's guide to web development. So if you go to my blog, which let me just paste it right here, There's just like more, I've already kind of written a lot of sort of longer form content that you might find more helpful. So this is just all the steps for learning web dev. So yeah, I'd check that out. Ankit says for C# the book you use for its best. Yeah, Pranav says the number of languages which are available is like so huge. It is. There's a lot, and I think especially when you're just starting out, it can be kind of overwhelming because there's so many different things that you have to learn. But just start with HTML, CSS, and then you can work on JavaScript after that, and then you'll figure it out. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so this is pretty easy to code, this section here. Okay, looks like we need some more padding. So I actually think I might need to, let's see. I need more space between the text and the image here. And I think I can do that with my classes that I've created already. So if you remember, I'd mentioned before for this wrapper helper class, there's a padding bottom. So I think what I might try to do is let's see. I don't like doing this because this is a little bit of a different model than I was doing before, but yeah. I mean, that is one way to do it, to add the padding. I can just move my helper class down. I wonder what I did up here to add the space. Looks like I didn't add enough space. Oh, large margin bottom. Maybe I'll do that instead. Yeah. Just because so far I've had the wrapper center class up in the section tag, and I don't really want to move things down necessarily. So what I'm going to do is I'll sort of take this class from the paragraph. So it says medium, large margin bottom. And so what that is another set of helper classes that I created where the medium, I have large, medium, and small, and that controls the font size. And then large margin bottom is margin bottom of 80 pixels. But what I might want to do is create another class, and I'll say X large margin bottom, maybe like that. And then I will, hold on. I just want to, let's see. I think I want to lock this so I can't move it. Okay. I'll do this. This is just so I can kind of try to size things. Okay, so we'll just use this as our little thing to guess the sizes since we're just working with a straight up JPEG. So let's see about how tall this is. So it's about 60 pixels tall. Let's see. Oh, Sweetheart Diva, is there a place just for people that want to do HTML and CSS, and that's all? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple places that you can learn. You can go to freecodecamp.org, and they do teach you full stack stuff, but it starts off with HTML and CSS, so you can just learn as much as you want. And they have a really good curriculum. They're nonprofit, so it's completely free. Yeah, McCaffrey said Code Academy. You know, I thought it was Code Academy for the longest time, but then I saw some tweet or something, and they're like, actually, it's Code Academy. And I had to like reread it. And I was like, oh, it is Code Academy. It's not Code Academy. But yeah, Code Academy is it's really good too. They have free options. And I tried them out like a while ago, and I think they're pretty good. So yeah. But yeah, Free Code Camp's great. Pranav says the best book for HTML and CSS is HTML and CSS by John Duckett. Yes. He has a really informative, but it's also just really well designed. So it's not like a boring textbook. It's just more engaging, and it's fun to look at because he has a lot of really great photos and stuff. So yeah, I do recommend that book. So yeah. Okay. Hey, I think you guys, we finished this section in like I don't know, what was it, 15 minutes? So I guess this is done. Let me just check the responsive styles to make sure the fonts kind of get smaller for mobile, because you can see that these get smaller, which hopefully I should have built in already. We can check on that. Image gets smaller, of course. So we actually might need to do a little work to make that responsive. Let's see. Yep, look at that. Oh, this doesn't look very good. Let me oh, yep, on mobile this centers. Looks like all the text centers on mobile. And this is a little trickier because on desktop, this quick search area, it's left aligned, but then on mobile it's centered. So might need to create another helper class for that. But let me just finish this section first and get this image working and seeing if there's anything else I need to fix. So yeah, when I'm making websites, I do this all day long. You just need to test the different widths. And this is just a very basic way of testing. Most browsers also have this sort of emulation thing, which is not 100% accurate, but honestly, for most people, it's going to be kind of as good as it's going to get for you. But the best way to test is to have like a staging environment where you can load the actual site on your phone or your tablet. And so that's kind of what I do for my own thing. I just test it on my Android, and then my husband has an iPhone. And that kind of covers most things. Okay, so the text looks okay. We just need to get that image working. So, okay, so let's see. Trying to figure out, oh yeah, I forgot this X large margin bottom. See how that looks. Okay, cool. So the cool thing about this live reload thing is that the instant that I make a change to the code, it will actually compile all the Sass to CSS, and then it'll reload the page automatically. So, Anki, which one do you prefer, React.js or Angular? So I haven't learned either yet. That's one of my goals. But I would personally learn React first. Maybe Vue first, because Vue's sort of like it's more lightweight. People say it's a really good sort of first JavaScript framework to learn, but so I would learn either Vue or React, but it also depends on what your ultimate goals are. So generally, I try not to make any really broad sweeping statements like X is the best framework or this is the best language, just because everyone's situation is different. So, you know, if you want to get a job eventually, I would just do a little bit of research and see what languages and what frameworks are most available and most common in the job listings. Then you can sort of tailor what you learn to the jobs that you eventually want to get, if that makes sense. Because let's say, you know, you learn React, but then when you start looking for a job, for whatever reason, the only jobs available are Angular. And you can probably jump from React to Angular and vice versa, just because you can pick up a new framework a little easier once you've learned the first one. But you've also not wasted time, but you could have kind of optimized your learning time to learn what would be most relevant to you. So that's my opinion on that. Leonel, you said you're working on your sister's website. Oh, that's really nice of you. You uploaded it, so it's live, but you want to update it. You got problems making some images responsive. Yeah, I've thought about doing like website reviews on the stream, so I'm not going to do it today, but hopefully I can sort of, when I style this image to be responsive, that might sort of give you some ideas, but I'll try to sort of explain how that works, and hopefully that can help you with your sister's website. McCaffrey says you do PHP often. Yeah, you've React as the first JS framework you want to tackle. Cool. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to do. Okay, so responsive images. The problem with this image right now is that it is 905 pixels wide. So, and because I haven't added any styles at all, it is just literally going to stay 905 pixels wide, no matter what. And generally what you want to do for responsive images is you want them to be responsive. So, even if your width is smaller than the size of the image, you want the image to sort of shrink with it, right? So one way you can do that is width of 100%. So you can see the image just got bigger, right? And this is actually not good because the actual image is 900 pixels, but now I'm displaying it at 1052 pixels, which is not good because it'll get kind of pixelated. So we'll figure that out in a second. But just adding that 100% width, you can see immediately the image is sizing to the size of the device. So that's kind of what you want. And then to fix this, the pixelated thing, we can say max width would be 900 pixels. So now this means that it's going to be 100% width, but it's not going to get bigger than 900 pixels. So if we keep going out, you can see it's not getting any bigger now, and it's at 900 pixels. So yeah, I hope, Leonel, I hope that helps you. So just adding that width of 100% will help a lot. And then you want to add a max width just in case, someone opens the website on a really big monitor and you don't want the image to be like gigantic. So in fact, let's figure out how to do that right now. What I kind of want to do is just across the board say all images are 100% width, but I don't know if that's a good idea because it'll affect like all the images. So what I might do is, what I could do is use this wrapper selector. So I can say if there's an image tag in the wrapper, I'm going to assume I want it to be responsive. So let's just try that. I could also add a class to the image, like, I don't know, class of responsive. So there's just different ways of handling this stuff. What other image tags do I have here? I might be able to get away with just doing image 100% width. Let's see what happens. See if this breaks anything. Okay. So it looks like the other, oh, yeah, see, so then because the logo is also an image tag, the 100% width seems to be overriding the width of 125. So, Okay, I'm going to try to sort of refactor my styles a little bit here. So this didn't work, so let's just kind of delete that. What I'm going to do is move this image tag into the content div. And then, where's the content class? Sorry, I'm just going to check what we did here. I might just take this content thing and take it out of the centered, because I might have some left line content in the future. We're just kind of assuming here. Okay. So look, now it looks like, okay, this is centered, and you can see the image is not centered because it's a display inline. Oh. I guess text line only works for text. So this image needs to be centered as well, and I need to figure out the sizes for it, but we will get to that. So I think what I'm going to do is in the content, we're going to add some child selectors here. So for image, so what I'm saying here is I want any image that is in this content div to have that width of 100%. And then we'll just give it a max width of, I don't know, 900 pixels. So then, oh, interesting. Now it looks like it's centered. Why is that? Let's see what happens if I do that. Is it still centered? Yeah, it looks like it is. What if I make it bigger? Oops, there. Oh, because the max width is 100. Okay, well... Oh, it's because it's just 100% width of the of this. So of course it's going to be centered because it's going like full width. So let's see, width. I'm just sort of testing this. What if it's smaller than 700 pixels? Okay. Oh, it wasn't centered before because it wasn't in the content div. So I guess now it is, yeah. It is centered because it's in the content div, and the content centered is text line center. Okay. Cool. I do want to make sure this is sort of sized correctly. I'm going to add a little fill to this, but I'll make the fill transparent. So then I can just click this to select it. Oh, this is actually kind of a nice way to estimate my sizes and things. Okay, let's see how wide this image is right now. It's about 400, so it is bigger than the text. So I think I'm actually going to add a specific class. So we'll leave this max width of 900 just to have a last resort to make sure an image isn't too big. But I think I'm I'm going to let's create another helper class because I love helper classes. So we'll add a helper class selector of maybe medium image. So it's sort of like what I've done down here with the paragraphs. I'll just say medium. And we'll say max width of this is just going to be 400 pixels because that's what was in the design. Then we'll go over here, add that class in there. And then, so the way that this ampersand works, this is for another Sass thing again. Yeah, add a separate class. Sorry, I didn't see your message earlier. But the selector, the ampersand means it'll use this previous selector. So what this ends up meaning is any element that's an image element because of the ampersand, and the image element has this class of medium like that. And that's exactly what we have there. If I didn't have the ampersand, it would mean something, but it wouldn't work for this. But what this means is if the image had a child, which isn't really possible because an image tag can't have a child, but if the parent element has a child element that has this class. So I haven't really done this anywhere here, but let's say content, let's say I wanted to add the medium image styles for content and then the image class of medium, which is actually what I have done here. So you can see here, these image styles only apply to an image that's a child of the content element. So hopefully that helps. Oh, Sieta, thanks for joining. I don't know if I had seen you earlier. Oh no, you were here at the beginning. That was you. Can we try max width of 100% height auto display block? Sure. Height auto, interesting. Display block, sure. So display block. So we'll get rid of this and we'll say max. Oops. I'm just going to comment the styles out for now. Max width of 100%, height auto, and display block. I had it already. Oh yeah, let me comment this out too. Oops, that's not what I want. There we go. So it looks sort of the same. It's centered and stuff. So where are these styles here? Oh, max with a 400. Why is that using that? There we go. Okay, so now it's display block, max with 100%, height auto. So I think that the height auto it's not necessary for some browsers. It might be necessary for Internet Explorer because Internet Explorer sometimes is kind of weird about like auto heights and stuff like that. So let's just try that. I'm just kind of curious now. Okay, so then we're going to remove this height auto selector. And let's see. That looks okay. So I don't know if the height auto is strictly necessary. It's sometimes good for image tags to have like a like you only statically set either the width or the height, and then the image will try to keep the gosh, what's it called? Like the aspect resolution. So that it won't, be stretched or whatever. So I'm actually not sure if you'd want max width of 100% and height auto. Actually, I think it's okay because the max width will be take the width of the parent element and then the height will just kind of be auto. Maybe it's like a best practice thing that browsers can sort of figure out without having to explicitly set, but I'm assuming Free Code Camp knows what they're doing. So it is kind of doing the same thing where it's just width is 100%. That's kind of the most important thing. Display block, I think we don't need that necessarily for this design. It might be helpful if you are, I don't know, positioning it, absolutely or something. I don't know. So I think display block is just good to put on elements sometimes. Ooh, John Carlos, thank you for the sub. Oh, and hello to Sue Bender. Thanks for joining the stream. So yeah, I think the most important property is the max width of 100%. But the other ones are fine too. So so because we know that this is in content and max width of 700, we'll just delete this. But we will put back the max width of 400 because that's part of the design. Oh no, what happened? Why is it not centered? Oh, haha, this is where display block comes in. So you can see here, I'll just add a little border so everyone can see more clearly. Red. The image is display block. So that means that it's not going to be affected by the text align of centered. Because text align centered only works on inline elements, which it was before. If we remove the display block, you can see down here. Oh, can you see that? You can't see. You can just barely see it. It says display inline. So if it's inline, it'll be affected. It'll be centered by the text align. If it's display block, it's not going to be. What you could do if you want to center a display block element is you can say margin auto, because the margin auto, so you can see it has, basically it'll want to put an equal margin on all sides. So that's one way to do it. So I'm personally, I think, going to take off the display block just so that it can be centered using the text align from the parent element. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully that kind of helps. Okay, so 400 pixels wide. Let's just kind of make that a little bigger. 404, it's about 400. So I think, is that kind of done? Let's see what this looks like on mobile. Uh-oh, that's not good. Why is there padding here and there's not padding here? Let's see. So the padding is coming from the wrapper. Okay, that's good. I did have the wrapper class. What's going on here, guys? I'm confused. It's the same, it has snippets, wrapper centered, and then content. And this also has wrapper centered and content. So what the heck's going on? Let me try to hide the image. I want to see if it's messing up the other styles. Okay, so something about the image is kind of causing this to not work. Let's see what's going on. So we're gonna add a border just to see where the border is. Display none. You know, I think it might be the max width of 100%. So I'm going to do width of 100%. Yeah, there we go. So I'm not saying that free code camp code is wrong, but I think it's maybe for certain circumstances it'll work. But I personally like doing width of 100% on image. But like honestly, there's more than one way to code a website, and there's many right ways. Many ways doesn't mean that other ways are wrong. Okay, so that looks better. It's centered at least, and it's not going out all the way to the edge. So I think I might need to reduce that bottom padding a little bit. Yeah. 80 pixels on the bottom. So let's see how much space we have on mobile. Man, I really like XD. Much better than what I was trying to use on OrphanView. Just because it's easier to zoom in and out and stuff. So this is 34 pixels high. And let's just kind of make sure it's the same up here. Okay, so it's about the same. So what I want to do is that bottom padding is from the wrapper helper class that we'd added. Let's find wrapper. So you can see padding bottom 157. Where did that come from? I'm assuming I had a reason for putting that in there. Oh yeah, it was from the wrapper itself. Come on, there we go. So it's about 188 for desktop. 188 for desktop. I might need to change that bottom padding. Okay, let's review. The wrapper from the previous class is up here, so it's a space between the sections. So let's see how much space that actually is down here. Oh, this is probably what it was. Height is 95. Man, I don't know where that 157 came in, but we're going to change it to 95 for mobile. Okay, so that's a bit better, right? And then let's check this. Oh, this is the paragraph, the margin bottom of 80. So let's check. So this padding is from the X large margin bottom, and it's 80 right now. So let's see what we need it to be for mobile. Looks like it's smaller than 80. 34. Okay, so what we want to do is we want this 80 pixels for desktop, which is what I'm assuming was why I'd originally written that style. But what we want to do is make it responsive. So we're going to use let me show you here, our breakpoint mixin. So what this means is mixin, when you declare mixin, this mixin is titled breakpoint. So to use that, we just say include. So you can see here, VS Code has some really helpful tooltips. So when you start typing something, it'll kind of explain what it is. So include, and then the name of the mixin is breakpoint. And then it has a parameter of size. And we have the size is, you can see, it gets a breakpoint value. Map get means it will kind of get the value from this, I don't know if it's called a map, but it's kind of like an array kind of thing. And then you can say, this is the array it's looking at, breakpoints, and then it takes the size from the title here. So to use this breakpoint, we'll say breakpoint, and then we want to see which value we want to do. So we're going to do large. So this means that any styles in here, which is going to be this margin bottom of 80, the 80 pixels of margin bottom will only be used for breakpoints larger than large, which is 1,000 pixels. And that works because this mixin will pop in this media query. And these media queries are what you write your responsive styles in. But if you don't want to type this whole thing, that's why we have this nice little mixin. And then the content will be whatever is contained in here. So hopefully that makes sense. But for mobile and tablet, we want to do margin bottom of, I think we said 35 or so. So let's just just for the sake of looking, let's look at, this is the compiled CSS file. So this is after this live Sass extension has compiled our Sass files to CSS. So we're just going to do a search for this class, just so you can see what the final CSS looks like. Okay, so we can see here, xlarge margin bottom has a default value of margin bottom 35, which is what we have here. Then, using our mixin, it has added the media query of media screen and min width 1,000 pixels, and then margin bottom like that. So, oops, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to make changes into your compiled CSS file because it's just going to get overwritten later. Carefully, you have to step out for a short meeting. Okay. Awesome. You seem to be getting a good grasp of the Sass. Thanks for joining. And yeah, the replay is going to be up on YouTube afterwards, so you can always catch that, after your meeting and for everybody else. Alrighty, so we were fixing that space below that paragraph. Let's kind of double check and make sure that's okay. So the spacing looks pretty good. I'm not sure about these font styles. I may not have written the styles. Yeah, so this is the H2 tag has font size of 1.75, which ends up being 28 pixels. So it's 28, and then the paragraph is 18. So the H2 looks sort of the same. Let's see. Actually, it does look smaller. Let me just check this. So right now it's 28. If we go to desktop view, how big is it? 34. Okay, so I did do some responsive stuff. The paragraph is 18 for desktop, and it looks like it's the same, 18. So we need to make this a bit more responsive too. Paragraph medium. Yeah, that's definitely too big. I'm going to say, wait, these look the same. I'm being a little picky here. No, it's a little smaller. Let's just make it a tiny bit smaller. And I think reduce the line height as well. That's a little bit too much. So what we're going to do is look at our paragraph styles. So this one was paragraph medium. Yeah, so it looks like it's the same for everything. So what we're going to do is use our mixin again. Breakpoint large. And then we'll copy these. We want to use that for desktop. This is just so I can remember the pixels. Let's just say 16 for mobile. And 16 pixels equals 1 rem. And we'll make the line height a bit less. So let's just make it 1.25 as well. Okay, that's a little better. What do you think? I think the line height needs to be a bit bigger. Let's try 1.5. I think that's a little smaller than the design, but I think that's okay. I kind of like that a bit better anyway. Okay, great. So we got our paragraph like that. That looks pretty good. Everything's centered. Fonts look all right. Desktop like this. That looks really small. I mean, it is 400, which... Oh. Now, why did I do 400? Because this is obviously bigger than 400 pixels. Let's see how big this is. It is, wait, really? That's not right. What? Why is this so small? I'm really confused right now. 720. Oh, why is this only 720 pixels wide? Okay, sorry guys. I have kind of messed up. Desktop design, how big is this? 1440, and mobile's supposed to be 375. I think I just didn't size my artboards correctly. So let's do that. 1440 for desktop. I'm just adding a note here. And then mobile, 375. 375 is a width of like iPhone 6, 7, and 8. Okay. This is at half. It's like half height width. Oh gosh. So bad. All right. There we go. So now it's 1440. We'll just have to kind of, oh yeah, unlock that. Then I'm going to resize. Okay, it's keeping the aspect ratio, which is great. There we go. Oops. There. Yay, so the image is now 3809, so we'll add that height to our artboard. There we go. Yay, so it's correct now. Let's do this. Oh, where do I want to save this? We'll save it in here, design. Clipboard, there we go. Okay. Sorry, let's check the chat. Oh, Noor, what do you think about WordPress? WordPress, I use it on my own blog. I think it's a really great tool, especially if you want to do freelance web dev and you want to make businesses for websites for small businesses. I think that it's really helpful. It gets a lot of hate because WordPress can be done really badly. And so people are like, oh, this is terrible. But, it's like any CMS. You need to make sure that you keep things updated and maintained. But I think it's really great. Any CMS is good because it allows people who aren't necessarily coders to be able to make changes to the content. They can create new pages, they can update content, they can do all the image stuff. And I work with clients who are, they're really good at WordPress. They just don't know how to code, which is fine. And it saves time for you as a dev because once you kind of have the website all built and working in WordPress, they don't need to come back to you for every single little text change. Whereas if you had a custom build with, HTML, if you made like a straight up React site or even just a static HTML site, if they're not comfortable with code with HTML and CSS, they would need to come to you for every single little copy change. So in some ways it's good because it is more work at the beginning, but it saves work for you at the end and it saves your client money because they can just make a lot of changes themselves. So I think it's great. I think everyone has their own opinion on it, but I think WordPress gets a lot of undeserved hate because I think the problem is that some people are like, oh, WordPress, anyone can make a website with WordPress, which is true. You can install a theme, you can get set up with your server, and a lot of web hosts actually have these tools that will spin up a WordPress site for you right away. So it makes it seem really easy at the beginning, but again, with the maintenance thing, you have to update WordPress for security reasons because, they'll fix potential hacks and things like that. And the same goes for plugins and themes. And if you install, a plugin or a theme that's insecure, and you might not know if you're not a developer and following these things, then you can get your website hacked. So that's why a lot of hacks occur from WordPress websites. It's because they weren't properly maintained. But it doesn't mean it's not a good tool. It just means that you do need a developer, at some point in the journey. Hopefully that's helpful. But those are my thoughts on WordPress. Cool. Hey, we are doing really good with this website here. So what did I want to do? I wanted to check this. Oh yeah, it's not 400. Where'd my little square thing go? Uh-oh. There it is. Okay, so how wide is this image really? Okay, it's about 800, maybe 810. Okay, so what I want to do is, instead of max width 400, I'm going to change that max width to, where is it? Here we go, 800. Cool. Sharath, hi. Oh, you can just call me Jessica. How many websites have you created? A lot. I mean, I'm still working as a professional web developer. I'm just doing this stuff on the side, but I've been a developer for 7 years now. Yeah, I work in like advertising. Oh, Coder Geek, thanks for joining. But yeah, I've made a lot of websites. I don't think I can show any of them to you just because it's like it belongs to like my employer. That's why I'm making these website templates, because these are open source. Okay, so it looks like this is pretty good. Just double check that here. Everything looks good. Yeah. Okay. So we finished this section, and if you were here at the beginning, I kind of found a bug where on desktop this is left aligned, which is the way we want to. But on tablet and mobile, we want this to be centered. So let's kind of go back and look at that. So you can see here in this section, on desktop, it's left aligned. On tablet and mobile, it is centered. So let's kind of figure out the best way that we want to handle that. Let's review the styles. Oh, Divi, hello. Thank you for joining. Oh, you're a student. Cool. Are you studying like computer science or something else related to programming? Okay, so if we go back here, snippets features, I had this text line left, margin left 55. So let's kind of go back into our styles and see what we got there. So we'll go into our snippets. So this is one reason why Sass is great, because all I had to do was identify the section that I want to make the change in. I see this class here, and I see this word snippets __. So I know I have created a snippets Sass file. So that's just kind of one way you can keep your code organized, make it more easy to make updates and bug fixes when you need to. So, okay, snippets __ features. Let's look back here. Here we go. So again, let me just minimize these things here. So snippets is the root selector, and then we have __ features using the ampersand to refer back to the root. So you can see here text lines left, then we have a margin left for desktop. So because we wanted things to be centered on mobile and tablet, let's just move this into the large breakpoint. Okay, so it is left aligned for a desktop. Ooh, that's not good. Why is this doing that? Let me just add a little border here so we can look at it. Cool. Divi, you are a computer science student in your final year. Cool. Love creating web pages. Please give some tips on creating more cool stuff in web tech. Yeah, I mean, you can do kind of what I'm doing, which is going to this Frontend Mentor website and just kind of building websites. And, you know, I think you could, you know, once this is done, if you finish one of these challenges, you can add it to your portfolio. Just say the designs from Frontend Mentor. Like, you don't want to you don't want to lie and say like, oh, I designed this website too, because you obviously didn't. But I'm just saying you hypothetically, not you, like Divi. But you can use these as, I think it's perfectly fine to use demo websites in your portfolio, as long as they look good and they're a good sort of demonstration of what your skills are. So hopefully that helps. All right, so we're trying to figure out right now why this text is going like this. It seems like, okay, that's probably why. So we have a max width here, and that was really also for desktop. So the trouble with max width is that, oops, I'm just curious if that'll help. Yeah, so the max width won't do anything if it's display inline. So I think somehow adding the max width makes this a display inline block. Oh, interesting. Maybe it makes it display block. Okay. Yeah, so for some reason, adding the max width property to the paragraph, usually by default, the paragraph is in display inline. If it's display block, then it's just going to be max width 340. And again, I'd have to center it with margin auto. But if I make it display inline block, it's kind of like a combination of a display block where it'll take that max width, and then it'll also be sort of like display inline. So it's kind of like a hybrid, which, you know, the name kind of implies it's inline dash block. So that means that display inline block, it'll have this max width, but it will be centered. So I think I'm going to do that. We just need to add this display inline block to the snippets features paragraph. Here we go. And then this should make both the max width and the text centered work. So now it's centered, which is what we want. And then it is left aligned here. Perfect. All right, we're doing good. Cool, let's see what else we got. And I'm so glad I moved these design files into Adobe XD. It helps a lot. Okay, so the next section is going to be, I'll just move this over here in case we need it later. But it's another sort of text section like we've had before up here. Then we have these 3 columns, which are side by side on desktop, and then they are stacked on mobile. So let's see. I think what I'm going to do is first let's do this section, then we'll do these column sections, and I'm going to experiment and try to show you how you can build this using both Flexbox or CSS Grid, because you can do it with both. So let's do this Supercharge thing first. So we'll call this section Supercharge just because it's the easiest. So access is done, huzzah. Then we'll do Supercharge. And like the other sections of the website, we're going to use a section tag to encompass everything in this. And we'll say Supercharge. Then we'll just add div class content just because I think we might need it. So Supercharge your workflow, and then we've got the tools. And we're just going to go over to the index.html to copy this is the one from Frontend Mentor. We're just going to copy all this. Go back to our index.html. And then add the title as like an H2. Then add a P, class, medium, X large, margin, bottom. And then if that's not the right margin to have on the bottom, we can just change the class if we need to. Okay. Let's see how that looks. All right. Oh, I forgot the wrapper centered stuff. So the wrapper adds bottom padding, and then the centered makes the text centered. Saad, hey, thanks for joining the stream. Yes, I'm trying to stream more consistently now. And I think streaming on the weekend seems to work the best for me, because a few days ago I tried streaming right after work and I was just brain dead. So it just was not going well. Okay, so this part's pretty much done. So now let's do our little 3-column layout here. So first thing we'll do is, let's see, we want to add the columns. So what I want to do is I'll add another div class. We'll just say Supercharge. Actually, let me make sure I don't have another helper class that I could just kind of utilize here. Because I did use flexbox for this. Yeah, Snippets, features, and image. I was using flexbox. I'm just gonna, just for the sake of, just because I'm gonna do this in flexbox and CSS grid, we're gonna make a separate class for this. So Supercharge, and let's call it columns. And then, let's go back to the design. We're gonna just create 3 columns. So Supercharge columns. So we're gonna say each column will have a class of Supercharge column, singular. So this is kind of one way that I like to use. So Supercharge columns is the plural. Supercharge column is singular. Sorry. There we go. That's not right. So I'm trying to use the duplicate thing. There we go. There we go. And then each one will just have that copy. So let's create blacklists, plain text snippets, and sneak preview. So let's go back to our reference and copy. Copy our stuff. Let's move this over to the other side so it's easier to copy. There we go. Okay. I'm just going to copy the copy, and then we will style them and add them. There we go. Let's unindent those. And then, how do I do that? Do you mean the duplicate thing? If you select text in VS Code and then just hit Control D, it'll duplicate and paste it below where you were. So it's pretty helpful if you have repeating elements that you need to work with. Okay, so let's figure out the elements that we want to do for this section. So the supercharger workflow is H2. So I'm going to say H3 for each of these sort of titles here. And then I'll just add a paragraph tag for those. So let's do that now. H3, H3. Oh, I minimized the line. Oh, I did text wrapping. So I'm pressing Alt-Z. Where is that? Toggle word wrap. So if I press Alt-Z, right now word wrap is turned off. If I press Alt-Z, it'll wrap it. So everything, I won't have to like scroll horizontally. So hopefully that's what you meant. Okay, then we'll add a paragraph tag for the text. Oh, I forgot the one right above it. And then paragraph. And then we'll do the same thing up here. H3 for sneak preview. Then we'll add a paragraph tag. Oops. Okay. So now we have, yeah, it's super helpful for long code lines. I use it a lot. So now we have supercharge columns is the parent element, and then we have each supercharge column down there. So since this is a new section, we're going to create a new Sass file. So in our SCSS folder, we'll create a new file. We'll call it underscore supercharge. And the only thing for when you create new Sass files, you do need to manually reference it in your main Sass file. Otherwise, it's not going to know which files to use to convert. But the thing is, the reason we have the underscore is that it allows you to just refer it by the name, and you don't need to include the underscore or the SCSS file extension. So now that we got that set, what we want to do is start writing our classes. So we'll say supercharge, then we'll do underscore columns for the parent, and we'll do underscore column for each of the child columns. Okay, so let's do with flexbox first. So for columns, we're gonna say on large breakpoints, we want to display flex. And this is because we only want it to be side by side on desktop. On mobile is going to stack, so we don't need flexbox for that. Then for column, again, we'll do just for large, just for desktop. We'll say flex of 1. And let's just see what that looks like, and then I'll kind of explain how that kind of worked. So, woohoo! And I didn't include the icons yet, but we'll add those later. I just kind of wanted to sort of show you how to make this a 3-column layout first. Okay, so you can see that this just sort of worked. I learned Flexbox first before CSS Grid, so maybe that's why I like using Flexbox as my default, unless I need to use CSS Grid. So what happened was supercharge columns is display flex. If we turn it off, it's going to stack. And then each supercharged column child element has a flex of 1. And what that means is the 1 is sort of like a width ratio. So that means that each one of them will have the same, because they each have flex of 1, it's the same. They will have the width sort of spaced equally among them. And you can change that. Let's say I wanted this first column to be twice as wide as the other 2. So we'll just do it in the browser, but we'll say flex. And because we want it to be double the width, we'll double the number. So 1 times 2 is 2. So now this first one is double the width of the other ones. And you can see that the existing, the rest of the width was divided between those two. And let's see, this needs to be wider. It's limited because of our content class. So I might actually just take that out. Yeah. Because we want those columns to not be limited to 700 pixels. So what I'm going to do is I'll just take this, move it back here. So the content only encompasses the H2 and the paragraph tag, and then I'll just unindent here. Then it should look okay. Let's see. Cool. So now we have contents all set, and then we have our columns down here. I'm just gonna add some bottom padding to the body so I can kind of put things up a little bit higher. And this is purely for testing. You know, you don't need to use this. Let's do 10 rems. Okay, so now there's a little more. Actually, I might do... There we go. VH is like your viewport height. So this is 100 viewport. 100 VH would be 100% of the viewport height. So you can see it basically doubles whatever is in your viewport. 100 is a little too much. I think I had, what was it, 20? Let's do 40. So it's about 40% of your height. But anyway, let's not waste time on that. Okay, so now at least it's sort of in the middle of the screen. Okay, so I hope that helps explain what we're doing here. So we're using flexbox. We made this have flex. Each column is a flex of 1, so it's dividing the space equally between the 3 elements. And then if I wanted to, can I duplicate this? Okay, so now I've duplicated the last one. So now there's 4 elements. So you can see it just divided everything equally among them. So that's how you can do this with flexbox. The problem here is that it looks like there is some spacing that we need to take into account. So let me just show you what I mean here. Let's make this go all the way down. So it looks like there is a cap on the left and the right, so it won't go all the way out to the edge, because you want some space between the edge of where your content ends and then your browser. So it's roughly here. So the grid is about 1100, maybe 1110 wide. And the problem here is that there's nothing here. So what I want to do is, I think I need to sort of cap the max width again. So it's similar to what we've done up here in the content div, where we have a max width of 700, but we want to be sort of globally, affecting all content on the page. So let's think about this. Normally I would add it to the content thing, but I already have 700 pixels in there. I could do it to the wrapper class. Let me just show you what I mean. So we'll add a border, 1 pixel, just to look at stuff. So you can see right now it's going all the way out to the edge. If I had a max width of 11, let's say 1110, and then I want to center it, so I'll say margin auto. So now everything's sort of capped here. And we don't need to, this is okay. It's okay for this image to go off screen. So this is better because now there's space. So you can see here. Yeah. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to add cap the max width of the wrapper class at 1110. Of course, we're going to have to go back and fix this background image, because in the actual design, it goes all the way out. So what we might actually do is just move that background image to the body tag. But let's add that max width to our wrapper class first. And I think I can just add it to all devices, because, obviously a mobile device is not going to be 1110 pixels wide. And then margin auto to center. And then let's check our website and see how it looks. Okay, so good, everything is capped. Okay, so this is kind of the section in question that we wanted to check. So you can see here, the wrapper has indeed been centered, and the max width is 1110. Let's just test what happens here. Okay, so here we're going to need to add a little padding for small desktop widths. I might just use the same padding up there. So what happened is I did add some left and right padding for mobile and tablet widths, but I think I took that away for desktop. Yeah. So if I add that back in, I can do that. Okay. So we're just going to take this away. Okay, so now let's make sure there's space. And this is mainly because, you know, you always want some space in your content so that it can breathe. If something's going all the way out to the edge or there's not enough space, it's just going to feel kind of cramped. So, okay, so I'm checking the left and right sides, and it looks like there is space on either side, no matter what width you're at, which is great. Okay, good. So I'm happy with that. Now let's move that background image into the body tag because we limited it, things can't go full width. So where was that? I think that was in the, let's check where this is. So this is the hero section. So this indicates to me that I've probably made a hero Sass file, which I have. It is right here. So I added the background image to the hero class itself, but I'm going to add it into the body, and because it's going to be on both desktop and mobile, we're just going to add it to our body element here. So we'll move that, add the background image there, and then it looks like we'll just add it to the breakpoint large. I know I had it in the medium earlier, but I think that's okay. Well, actually I shouldn't, because the mobile background I think is only 375 width. So if I use that on tablet, it's going to look a bit pixelated. So we'll add another breakpoint for medium and up, and we'll add the background image there. Okay, so let's check that now. Oh no, what happened? Why is this happening? It's using the background image. Oh, I didn't save taking it out. Okay, there we go. It was just overriding it. Okay, so now it looks like the background, whoa. I think I don't want it to be covered. I want it to contain, maybe? Oh, sorry, on the body. Oh, wait, did I still? Okay, so it's loading the background image, but this is super pixelated, which means it's like zooming way too much. So background size, cover means it'll try to cover the entire thing. So because the body is like so tall, it's trying to cover literally the entire height, which is not what we want. Let's try contain. Okay, so contain is good. It's containing it to the width, but now it's repeating. So we need to just turn off the repeating. Background repeat, no repeat. Perfect. And it is centered, and it's going to stick to the top, which is what we want. So let's take that and we will add those to here. So we want to contain it. Then we will do no repeat. Cool. Huzzah! All right. Looks good. Let's check it on mobile. So you can see as I change the width, the background image is sort of sizing with the width, which is what we want. Okay, that looks pretty good. Doesn't look pixelated anymore. Okay. So let's see. All right, we had done our columns here using flexbox. So now let's code them using CSS grid. So let's go back to our markup. And I don't think I need to change I don't need to change the markup at all. I can just kind of redo the classes. So we'll comment this out for now. And instead of display flex, we're going to do display grid. Oops, grid. That's not going to work. There, grid. Okay, so let's just see what happens if all we do is display grid. Okay, nothing's happening. And this is a bit different from flexbox because let's say if we did display flex, flexbox is sort of, has these kind of auto things. So if you say display flex on the parent, it'll automatically assume you want to fit everything on one line. And it's going to assume that you want the grid to go horizontally. So that's kind of why I like flexbox, because it has these sort of auto default settings. But because we want this to be grid, the thing with grid is that you can have control over the grid template, which means you can say, okay, I want, a certain X number of columns, and I want each column, the first column to be 300 pixels wide, and the other columns to be, whatever, remaining width. But because it allows you that much control, it's not going to it just doesn't have these sort of default settings like flexbox. So for grid, you need to say what grid template you want to use, meaning what layout of columns and rows you want. Grid template. And I think, what was the shortcut for that? GTC. And for grid template columns, we want 3 columns and we want them to be equal widths. So we're going to use this new unit called a fractional unit. So we'll say 1FR, 1FR, 1FR. So what this says is we want our grid to be 3 columns. It does assume that you have horizontal columns by default. I'm sorry, it doesn't assume, because we say the columns. We're designating grid template columns. So this is saying 1FR, 1FR, 1FR. So we're going to say this grid's going to have 3 columns, and each one of them will have the same width. And the 1FR is similar to, if you remember, we had, when we did flexbox, we said in the children, the flex of 1. It's kind of the same idea where it is like a ratio. So let's go back and look here. And it looks like grid of 1FR, 1FR, 1FR. So that's pretty easy. So for both flexbox and grid, it looks like we really only had to write 2 lines of CSS for each of them. But the difference is for grid, you sort of designate what the columns and the rows layout is going to look like in the parent element. And we don't actually have anything in the child elements for grid. Whereas for flexbox, you designate, you say, okay, this is going to be a flexbox element on the parent, but then you designate the width of each child element in the child element selector. So that's kind of the difference here. And let's check on mobile how this looks. So it does stack on mobile, which is what we want. Cool. So we're just going to leave it at CSS grid for now. Next thing we want to do is, I believe there are some icons that we needed to add, which is correct. So these are probably going to be SVGs. And I should have all the images here. So blacklist, text snippet, sneak preview. So I'm assuming this is correct. Icon blacklist. Snippets. Okay. So for the icons, we're going to use image tags. So sorry, the icons are above the H3 tags. So let's do that here. So we'll say image source equals images and then icon blacklist. Where was that? Up here. Cool. And we'll just do the same thing for the other sections. Okay, so snippets and sneak preview. Let's see if we can figure out what the names of the other ones are. I'm assuming this one is preview, the sneak preview. And then plain text snippets. I guess it's text. Cool. All right, let's see how this looks on our website. Ooh, nice. Very good. And let's add some space under them. Let's use our little rectangle thing here. Just to see how much space there's between the image and then the text. So it's about 48, maybe a little bit less. Let's say 46. And it looks like it might not be the same under all of them. So I'm assuming because this is taller, it looks like it's more below. So let's see, how can we do that? So it looks like basically we want everything to be centered vertically. So, no matter the copy we want, or no matter how big the image above it is, we want the titles to be kind of all across on the same line. So what we're going to do, I think, is I'm actually going to add a wrapper. Div class Supercharge icon. And then in here, we'll add the image tag. Don't forget the alt tags. There we go. And I'll explain why I'm doing this. Supercharge icon. Then I'll do the same thing to the last one. Supercharge icon. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, what I'm trying to do is make things kind of equal, because you can see the titles are going, they're not the same. So what I'm going to do is for the Supercharge icon class, we'll just test it in the browser for now. We're going to say, let's just add the border thing just so you can see. So you can see they're different heights, and this is why the copy is not sort of all the same across the line. So we'll set a static height. Height of, what is it right now? 47. So we'll say 48 pixels. So now you can see that now at least they're all equal. Next thing we have to do is vertically center them. So we'll use flexbox for that. Display flex, and then justify content. So we want it to be in the center. So we'll say center. And then it looks like it, by default, it aligns the items in the center. And you can do, there's different settings. So you can say flex start. Flex start means it'll be on the top. Flex end at the end. So it's just centered like that. So we're going to do copy these styles, and then we'll add it to the Supercharge icon selector. And I think we want to do that for mobile as well. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so now we can see it is centered, like all the text at the same level, which is great. So now we can sort of go in and polish this a bit and add that space under the icons. So 46 again. So we'll just add a margin bottom to the icon as well. We'll say 46. Cool. So now I can see there's space under the icons. It looks pretty, that's a little too much. I might have done height of 46, which is right. Oh, Oh, there's a little extra space because there's of the line height of the H3. So let's make this just a little bit less. Let's try 40. I'll just kind of eyeball it and see how that looks. Maybe a tiny bit less. Let's do 36. We'll stick with that. All right. Looks pretty good. See if there's anything else we want to do. The text looks a bit different as well. So I think I kind of used the paragraph helper classes for these paragraphs. I didn't have anything, so we want to make it smaller. So we'll go back to our global.scss. Let's look for paragraph. So yeah, it looks pretty good. We're doing well. So large, medium, and small. So I think I had been using medium. Oh, yeah, medium. So for all these paragraphs in these 3 columns, we're going to use the small class. So first one is blacklist, so we'll say class small. And we'll just copy that and use that in the other 2 paragraph tags as well. There we go. All right, let's see how that looks. Good, it is smaller. Looks like the line height is much bigger. So what I'm going to do is for the small, I'm just going to add a line height. It looks pretty big, so let's say 1.75. Might even be 2. Okay, I think it's like 2. 1.75 is good enough for me. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Yes, the space between them is gone. That's because I need to... What I need to do is add space between the columns. And the cool thing about grid is you can, I think it's here, grid gap. So it adds like a gutter, let's say 20 pixels. And this is one thing that grid can do that flexbox cannot do. Like if we'd done this with flexbox, we would have had to add individual padding to all the child elements, which would add it on both left and right side. And then we'd have to manually not have left padding on the first element and not have right padding on the last element, but which can get a bit tricky, especially if you have content that spans multiple rows. But in grid, you can say grid gap of 20. And another cool thing about grid is that, let's see if I can open this up here. In your dev tools in Firefox, and I think Chrome has the same thing, they actually have a grid inspector, which means, let's just make this red, which means that when you check this box up here, it'll show you actually, you can see this is the first, I don't know what you call it, but the first column. I guess they're grid tracks, that's what they're called. So the first track here, second track, you can see there's a grid gap. So the grid gap is really smart because it only adds a gap between, when there's 2 columns next to each other. It doesn't add it on the far left and the far right side. So this is great because it's intelligent. So if you have things that go into the next row, it'll sort of add the space where it needs to. So anyway, this is just really helpful when you're working with grid elements. So we'll just take that off. So what did I do? Oh yeah, I'd added a grid gap of 20. So let's add that in our Supercharge Sass file. Here we go. I'll just do it under grid template column. So grid gap of 20 pixels. Cool. So now there's space between them, which is great. Let's just see if looks about the right amount of space. Good enough for me. So you can see the space is there. We'll just kind of polish that as well. So let's see how it looks like on mobile. So the space under the icons looks about the same. And it does look like this is it's going to be 100% width on mobile, but we also don't want it to go all the way out here for, tablet. So if we use the emulator and look at our tablet, this is a bit too wide, right? So we want to cap that width. So we'll have to set a max width on one of these paragraph things. So I actually might do... I might just add a max width on all paragraph tags. And we'll see how that looks. That might mess up some of the alignment. But let's just see what happens. Let's say max width of 400 pixels. So now things are limited. So you can see before it was going all the way across. Now it looks pretty good. This is messed up. But we'll figure that out. So now you can see this is good. And the reason this is messed up is because... Why is that? I think it's because this is... I think it's because the column is limited to 400, and so the text goes all the way across. So even though it's smaller, it's limited on the parent, whereas here the parent is this content thing. So if it goes all the way across, you would never notice. Like if the max width was 700, it looks like it's centered, right? Because the text line is centered. But because it's less, it's not going to be centered. So what we could do for that is margin auto. I think I need to do margin left auto, margin right auto. So then at least, okay. That looks all right. I don't know if it's the best way to go though, because I really just want to limit these small content things. Like I don't mind if these are longer. So let's just kind of remove that and just put it in the small ones. So now you can see this goes wider, which is, I think it's still readable. Might need to limit that. But then see here, these are now limited to 400. And let's make them a bit smaller. Because this is, 300, less than 375. And like, how big are these here? It's about 335. So we just want to make sure we limit it to something that just makes it more readable. So let's do 350. Okay. So now this looks nice and readable. Might need to add a little space between them because they're kind of flowing into one another. So you want to have each section be pretty distinct from the others. But that's okay. This actually doesn't bother me a tremendous amount. So let's just work on kind of adding the spaces between them. So you can see, hey, Addicted Developer. Oh, from Instagram. Cool. Thanks for joining the stream. Interesting question. What gives you the drive to continue getting better at being a dev? I would say my primary drive is that I just like to do things correctly, if that makes sense. So, and I also I like knowing things. So I like, being good at I like being good at coding, if that makes sense. So I think that's kind of like my primary drive. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so it looks like between the sections is about 60 pixels. Let's just double check that. And the icon is about 46. So we're going to add 60 pixels of space under each one. So how we'll do that is we'll go back to our Supercharge Sass file. Then on column, we'll say margin bottom 60 pixels. So let's see how that works. Cool, so now you can see there's space. So if we look at it as an iPhone, now, we can see clearly that this section is its own section separate from these other sections. And I might actually reduce the space under the icon for mobile just to make it even more, make the icon seem even more like it belongs to the text under it. So what we'll do is we'll have the initial margin bottom that we had before just for large, and then we'll reduce it to, let's say, 25 for mobile. So now you can see it looks a little bit better. Maybe even less. Let's try 20. Okay, I like that. So we'll say 20 for that. Cool. Wow, we're doing pretty good. Did I miss anything else? Cool. Let's just do one final check. So desktop will gradually get narrower. Things are still, they have space between each other, which is great. So this is tablet view, so it does stack. I think I need to have a little more space under that subheading there. Yeah, look at that. There's a ton of space under that. So it's just a good idea to, constantly check your website at different device widths. So it's about 94. Is that similar to any other spacing? Doesn't look like it. Yeah. So it's kind of its own thing. Below work. Yeah. You're on the same page as me. We need to do that. Add some space under the workflow. I think there's a bit of a delay between like when I can see the stuff in chat. But anyway, let's see. So this is extra large margin bottom. Let's go check out our helper class. X large margin bottom of 80. But the problem is, let me just minimize the columns because we're done with those. This is for the normal content, but because it's under Supercharge, it needs to have even more space. So what I might actually do is under our Supercharge Sass, for content, we'll add another additional space under the content section, I think. And we'll say margin bottom. So we already have 80, but we want it to be like almost 100. So we'll just say 20 pixels below that. So let's see how that looks. So now you can see the content, I added 20 pixels. I might want to, let's just see. This is mobile. Zoom in here. That's a lot of space. Where's my little red square? There it is. Oops, come on. Oh dear. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so 94. Yeah, might need to be 30 pixels. Let's just test it in the browser first. That's 30. Let me zoom out so it kind of matches better. Oops. Okay. Move this away. That seems, maybe actually even a little bit more. Let's try 40. Let's try 50. I think 40 was pretty good. Okay, let's do that. So we'll change the Supercharged content margin bottom to 30. All right, looks pretty good, guys. So let's go one more test. So it looks good on mobile. Now this is about the tablet width. And then for here, let's make sure that this spacing is correct as well. Oh yeah, there's less spacing for desktop. It's about 70. And right now we have Oh, it's because of this. I'm going to remove this class, I think, because it's just a bit more custom from the other ones. Okay. So let's go back to mobile. Check our spacing. We'll have to add a little more space to the content thing, I believe. It was around 100, so let's try 70. Okay, yeah. So we'll do 70 for mobile. And for desktop, we want it to be maybe like 30. See how that looks? That's maybe 40. So 70 for mobile, 40 for desktop. Oops. We'll add our little breakpoint. Margin bottom of 40. All right. Okay, that looks pretty close. That looks pretty good. Let's test it on mobile again. So it's just a lot of testing when you're building websites. You really want to make sure things are pixel perfect. Okay. Hey, I'm happy with that. What do you all think? Yeah, that's good. There's more space below the productivity text than there is below the icon. So, or even between the columns. So you really want to sort of emphasize that this is separate from these columns here. Cool. We're making pretty good progress on this site. So yeah, that's right. It looks more like the our design. So I think we're going to stop there for now. Thank you so much for joining. We'll do another stream, and I think we might try to finish the rest of this site. So we'll do the logos next time. We'll do this little CTA section, and then we'll code the footer. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.